So we're here checking out your UV maps for your biped character. This is the face that I've got selected right now. I've got my UV texture editor open. Now, the face actually is looking really good. You've untangled the ear and the eyes pretty well. The one problem that we have here is rather than the split at the top of the head occurring right here on this center line, it's actually splitting over here to one side, okay? So ideally we want this to split right down the center. So we're gonna move a few things around and just kind of recreate that, okay? I'm just gonna go to my UV mode here and start moving stuff around. I'm gonna move this back over this way, okay? And, again, this is my center line right here, so this is where I want that split to be happening. I'm going to put this one right here. We'll put this over on this side for now. And it's going to get pretty stretched out. I'm going to go ahead and do the split right here, okay? So I'm going to go to my edge here. I'm going to grab these edges along the center line. And this is actually happening all the way down. This right here is our center line, okay? This one that's on the outside edge right now is actually part of this half of the head, okay? So I'm going to follow this all the way down. This is my center line here. Just select all of these. And I'm going to use my cut UVs, or separate UVs tool. Okay, just click on that, and that has now separated them. So now I can just work with one side or the other, all right? And just kind of pull these apart. Now, we'll have to grab each one of these pretty individually, okay? To start separating these things out from one another so that we can see them a little better and see what's happening. You can also click this little button here to see a little better what's going on with our UVs as well and make sure that we don't have any UVs that are overlapping with one another, okay? So I'm just going to start pulling anything from this row, okay, over here in this general area, and just making sure it's separate. An easier way to grab all of these things at once would be to come down here and grab this corner, okay? Since this long strip here is no longer connected, to the UVs next to it, all right, we split this right down the center here. I can actually use the Shift key and period button, alright? If I hold the Shift and press period, that's the greater than symbol on the keyboard. It will, each time I press that, select any vertices that are directly next to or connected to the vertices that I currently have selected, or in this case, UVs, since these are actually UVs and not vertices. So I'll select all those fairly quickly. You can see I can select those without having to go through and grab each one individually. I'm gonna turn this around. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'll just keep it that way. And I'll just move it over here, okay? Because it's gonna sew on right over here on this other side, okay? So that kind of gets that somewhat into place. We'll start putting these other things into place as well. And it's just going to be moving a lot of stuff around at this point. We're just going to be kind of following this edge that we've already established, alright? We just want to move these polygons close to the edge that they're going to be attached to, alright? You can see they're all more or less in the right place already. Alright, it's going to look something like that. Now we're ready to sew it back together. Okay, go to edge mode and start grabbing these edges. Alright, you're going to want to grab these two as well. There's a small break here. Okay, so grab those. Don't forget those. Come all the way along. And we'll hit our sew button, okay, to sew those together. Now they're a solid piece, and you can see now our head UVs are splitting right down the center of the head, okay, rather than off to one side. So that fixes that. You know, again, not too big of an issue, but you should probably go in and deal with it. I'm gonna go to object mode and take a look at some of the other things in the scene. If Maya lets me. There we go. Okay, so the hair is very similar to the head, but in this case, you know, we've got a seam kind of going right down the center of the hair here, which might not be optimal, so we may want to change the layout of the hair a little bit, okay? Because if we leave it the way it is just at the moment, basically you're gonna get to right here, and we'll show you where this is on the head. Basically, your texture is gonna make sense until you get to right here, okay? As soon as you come here, you're gonna see this visible seam in your hair texture all the way down the back of the head, okay? So that can cause problems when you're in a 3D environment, alright? If anybody is able to see the top or back of your character's head ever, that's going to be very noticeable. So we want to keep this as seamless as possible, alright, for something like that. So let's go ahead and do that. So to fix this, we're essentially going to be sewing up this seam, okay? So we're going to take both these different sides of the hair and sew them together, okay, to make kind of one solid piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is start moving some UVs into place next to one another, and I'm only grabbing the UVs that are along the outside here, okay? And it's going to get really messy before it gets nice, so bear with me here. I'm going to start pulling things over. Okay, and I'm only concerned at this point with the outside edges. You know, anything that's going on inside with any of this stuff turning upside down or anything like that is fine for now, and we don't need to worry about it. Just the outside edges are important. And you'll find that that's actually the case a lot of the time with UV mapping. Outside edges are going to be really important to keep track of. And I'm going to do this till I get all the way to the bottom of the hair here, okay? And once I've got these all kind of in one solid line together, I'm going to go ahead and go to edge mode, grab all these edges, and I'm going to sew them together, if I can grab the right edge. There we go. Alright, we'll just sew them together. There we go. Okay, well now we have no seams, but look at all this crazy mess that we made out of our UVs. Alright, so, you know, again, this is just a matter of, it's going to be a shaping issue. Alright, so I'm going to just start, and again, this is an outside edge thing. Alright, so I'm going to start moving these outside edges around to make kind of a rounded shape. Alright. And you can also refer back to the book to see what kind of shape your outline should have. Alright. Again, don't worry too much about the inside stuff. We'll deal with that. You can even grab quite a few of these at a time. Just make sure you're only grabbing those outside edges. All right. So this is roughly what 1/2 might look like. Okay, so this big kind of swoop. This is all the back of the scalp here. That's what that kind of represents. Here's you know, like a little sideburn. Okay, it's going to be right here, the sideburn that we've got going on, and then we'll bring some things forward here as well for our front of our hair. Okay, now I'm going to turn the video off for now and do the other side as well, because it's just going to look the same as this side, and then we'll come back when that's all done, okay? Okay, and we're back, and we've got the other side all pulled out in the shape that we want. Now, you might be looking at this and going, wow, look at this, this is a mess. You know, what am I supposed to do with this now? This looks crazy. And you'd be right, it does look pretty crazy. It looks hard to untangle, but luckily we have a tool that will do most of the untangling for us, okay? Basically, the way this works is as long as you have your outline set up, alright, all of your outside edges set up where you want them, you can grab everything else that's not the outside edge and have this awesome tool which will untangle most of this for you, okay? Now, it's very important that you don't grab any of the outside edges, alright? Leave those out of your selection. Select everything else that's not on an outside edge, and we're going to use our Smooth UV tool. Let's see. So click on that guy right there. Let me get this little button. I'm sure you've seen this before since we've been using it to do our UVs. It's got unfold and relax as options. I can move it around with my mouse just by clicking and dragging this little yellow circle here. So I can use the unfold tool. Wow, magic, right? Look at that. Or I can also use the relax tool. They're slightly different, so they'll give you different effects. You know, I suggest trying them both out and seeing which one works best for you. In this case, they're giving us more or less the same result, so, you know, just whatever you like, go for it. So there we go. Ta-da! Much nicer shape. All right. Now, in all honesty, you know, this wasn't the perfect outline. Okay, so you want to spend a little more time on this. All right, and get your outline looking just right, looking a lot nicer. Okay. So you really want this to look like your sideburns. Okay. And you really want this area here to be kind of proportionally correct to how far this distance is. All right. So I'd say, you know, make this a little bit wider, make your sideburns come out to the side a little bit more and shape those a little better. But you get the general idea here. Now once you've done something like that, make sure, it's really important, you need to make sure that you scale this so that it just fits into this 0 to 1 space, alright? This is basically when you create a texture, this is all you get. You get this square, alright? You have a square texture map file, and it goes right here. And if you move your maps anywhere else, basically your texture will repeat itself. Okay, so if you have a texture here, basically it'll be one square image, and then over here to this side in this gray area will be the same image, just taken and placed over here. Okay, and above that is the same image again, and over there is the same image. All these squares that just kind of repeat forever. So to get the best resolution and the best out of your texture, especially if it's not a repeatable texture, okay? If it's not something that has no seams, then you want to use this 0 to 1 space only, okay? And you want to use up as much of it as you possibly can, because the more space you use here, the more of your actual square image you're using. So you've got higher resolution that way, okay? So that's the hair. Let's look at also the tongue. because that's a bit of an area of concern. We'll open up our texture editor here, UV texture editor. Okay, I still have the hair selected, so should deselect the hair and then select the tongue. Okay, so yeah, we have sort of a rough shape that could be the tongue, but it's gotten away from us a little bit here. Okay, so when I look at this, I'm not entirely sure what part of the tongue I'm looking at, and it makes it really difficult for me to paint a texture onto an object if I'm not sure which part of the object these polygons represent. Alright, so we want to stay true to kind of what the shape of the object is. Now, what I'm actually going to do for this is I'm going to show you a different technique, alright, that I use for the tongue, alright, and that is to take a UV snapshot from above the tongue. Okay, so basically it's just going to look straight down on the tongue in the Y direction, alright, and it's going to create UVs based on what it sees here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. I've got my tongue selected. I'm going to go to create UVs, and I'm going to do planar mapping. I'll grab this little box here so I can set it up. Now I want to take an image of this tongue from above. Okay, so straight through from above, that's going to be my Y direction here. Okay, this is that up and down axis. So my camera is going to be sitting on that Y axis. Alright, so I'll hit Y axis here. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit project. Then I get this. So this is pretty much just like a snapshot of my tongue from above. Now it's trying to use the most of this 0 to 1 space, okay? But also it's stretching out the tongue pretty badly. So we don't really want that. We're going to grab the UVs here and squish them in a little bit so that this actually looks like our tongue, okay? Alright, now the other problem that we have here is that this is both the top of our tongue, okay, and also the bottom of our tongue, just sitting both of these layers right on top of one another, okay? And they're going to need their own separate space, okay, because usually the bottom of your tongue looks different than the top of your tongue. There's, you know, a lot of different things going on there. So what I'm going to do is just cut along this outer edge here, okay, and cut the tongue into two pieces, basically, the top and the bottom. Alright, so I'll just grab these outside edges. And I'm going to use my Cut UVs tool. Alright, so, you know, obviously it looks like nothing at all happens, but it actually has cut the tongue all the way around into two separate pieces, the top and the bottom. Now I can just grab a UV anywhere, use my Shift key and the period key, so greater than, and I can just keep hitting that and it's going to grab everything on one side of the tongue. Alright, so and then I can just use my move tool and move that away, move that off the top of the other piece. Alright, so this piece is blue, indicating that it's facing the correct direction. This one is red, indicating that these UVs are upside down. So we want to flip those. We'll just grab them all. Okay, we can go to polygons, flip. There we go. Now they're all blue. We flipped them around. Looks like a tongue. Pretty easy to paint on. Awesome. And we do need to make sure that we keep these both in the 0 to 1 space. So we want to, we also want to keep them probably similar in size to one another. So I'm going to try something like that. I'll rotate this one around. and try to use up the most space that I can in this 0 to 1 space. So that's just one way of doing the tongue. Basically what this means is that the seam that we'll have on the tongue is going to go all the way around right here and separate the top from the bottom. Now in the example that Bruce has in the book, the seam goes along the bottom center of the tongue, okay? And those are both useful in their own different ways, okay? So something like this setup is fine if we're not going to see the tongue in very close detail, and it keeps minimal stretching, alright? So we're not going to see a lot of stretching of the textures on the tongue because these are very true to the actual shape of the polygons on the tongue, alright? In the other example from the book, the seam is right here instead, meaning that, you know, if we look at this tongue even close up, we're not going to see a seam coming all the way around this tongue, alright? It'll be tucked in a kind of an out of sight, out of the way place just underneath the tongue here. The only problem with that is that there's going to be a lot of stretching of these UVs that are on the underside of the tongue, okay? So, you know, it's just kind of a personal choice thing, and it depends on the project you're working on, whether you want to see more stretching or more seams, okay? It's just kind of a trade-off with UV mapping. I'm going to leave that like that for now, okay, so that's alright. Now, with the body here, it looks like, well, it looks to me anyways, like you may have just run out of time with this. So I'm not going to go through all of this right now, okay, because there's quite a lot of it. Here's a sample of what the UVs should look like when you're finished, alright? It should look something like this. So these ones look like they might have been started, but as you can see, there's a lot still to be done. Basically, you're looking for one solid piece here for the shirt, okay? A solid piece for the pants. You'll get 4 pieces for the hands, alright? 2 will be the tops of the hands, 2 will be the bottom side of the hands. And you'll also get a solid piece for the shoe here, as well as a couple pieces for the bottom of the shoe, alright? Let me know if you need help with this. If it was just an issue of running out of time, then, you know, you can resubmit after you've completed this. If you're not sure how to proceed from here, let me know, and I can do a video for you about that as well, okay? That's it for today. I'll also send you this sample picture that you can kind of take a look at for reference, alright? Let me know if you have any questions about anything, and thanks for watching, and happy modeling.